Hey everyone, it's Daniel Elwood and Robert Johnson, The Last Nighters. You can find The Last Nighters on the Launchpad Media, where they're always launching new ideas in your direction. This is going to be episode 117 of the show, lastnighters.com/117. And we're going to be talking about Jackie Chan's Police Story with our special guest. This movie, we get kind of a view of Hong Kong in the 80s, back when the police had quaint levels of authority, which is sharply contrasted with today's jackbooted tactics of late that have stifled protest and dissent. And we have invited Shaine Scalph of HAPA Supremacy, also, that's their Facebook page, and their podcast and everything else is called What's HAPAning, to discuss this movie, this action classic. And this was a favorite. This is why this was selected. Welcome to the show, Shaine. We enjoy having you on already. We've had a bunch of pre-show content available for our Patreon supporters. You can hit us up at lastnighters.com/Patreon to get a piece of that. It was a half-hour discussion of what's going on in FEMA Region 6 with you, and FEMA Region 3, I think, is where we are. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to hear and see what you have to say about Police Story, because like you said, it's a favorite. So yeah, and then you say before all this stuff that we talked about before the show started, the actual show, man, if people could hear that, they'd probably kick us off the internet in total. So I don't know. Just want to let you know.
Yeah, we're probably already banned. This is probably already got a few copyright strikes and whatever else they send our way as far as like takedown notices. But your show, What's HAPAning, if you wouldn't mind describing it to our audience and telling them where they can go and find it and give it a listen. I was a guest when it was called HAPA Supremacy a couple of years ago with Pat McFarland of Liberty Weekly, and I'll put that on our show notes page, of course. But where can people find what you do? And then we'll get into the movie.
So What's HAPAning is a podcast I do with my wife, Nico. We basically just talk about, what's going on in the world today. Sometimes we'll have a guest, but most of the time it's just us two. And sometimes we'll go with serious topics, and then towards the end we kind of go more towards more lighthearted type of material, such as weird news. And we always, not always, but most of the time we try to end with a Florida man story. So that's always enjoyable. But you can find the What's HAPAning podcast on pretty much any podcatcher, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. And then also the Simplecast is where the What's HAPAning podcast is. That's the main page for it. And then, as you said, you were a guest of ours back when it was the HAPA Supremacy days on our YouTube channel. It's now just called What's HAPAning, but back in the day it was HAPA Supremacy. But we've also had guests like Scott Horton, Dave Smith, Eric July. We've had Lauren Chen. I know it's not ANCAP, but we had Lauren Chen. We've had Tim Poole on once before, and those are the Pete Quinones, or back in the day it was Mance Raider. So we've had him on too. But we had a whole bunch of guests there. So if you guys want to, because it's crazy, because we did get some comments sometimes about, they'd be like, how did you get Dave Smith on when the main people's quality of their video is like a potato? So that was a good joke, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to get him on, but we're just hoping to get good enough to like have people actually want to be on. I appreciate that you're on. Apparently, we've attained that level of quality. And one of our listeners right now had said that they now see another podcast to check out. So you've got at least one more listener already.
Oh, sweet. Oh, Doc Brown. Oh, man. That's a classic right there. We have to go back to the future.
Yeah, my kids love, they watch the British Baking Show, and one of the opening scenes was them making a version of Back to the Future. And it was like the first season, or the first episode of season 8, I want to say. And so whenever you would finish like season 9, it would go back to 8. And so they would see that little scene a dozen times or more, and they love it. So they actually play that. They get in our car and go, let's go Back to the Future. The kids. So kids are fun.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So how we start off the show, and thank you again for being on, and we'll have links to your show and everything. we start with the Google description, and I will read that off, and then we will get Robert's reaction. I see him furiously pounding some food in the background there, so I'm going to try to buy him some time, a little bit of time. Or, you know what, better yet, I'll go to Shaine, you first for the reaction, so that we'll let Robert have his...
You're mentioning it's a cooking show. I'm eating some food. I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough. This is, like I said, Shaine, this is a high quality show. Yeah, we are very polished. Everything. This is all scripted, by the way. This is not ad-libbed at all.
Wow.
All right. So, Police Story, PG-13, came out in 1985. It's an action/comedy film, 1 hour and 45 minutes or 46 minutes. 7.6 IMDb, 92% Rotten Tomatoes, 78% Metacritic, 90% of Google users like it. The description reads, an honest Hong Kong cop protecting a Triad boss's girlfriend turned informer finds himself framed for the murder of a dirty cop and going on the run. The movie mixes slapstick and wild stunts and features some painful outtakes during the final credits. The initial release was December 14, 1985 in Hong Kong. The director is the man himself, Jackie Chan. He also sang the theme song. So he's multi-talented guy here, Jackie Chan. Box office of $22.22 million US dollars. It was in Chinese and Cantonese and in a terrible English dub that I had to actually change from English to Cantonese and then turn on the words so I could see what was going on, because the English translation and then what the words that were on screen were not matching up. So I was like, whoa, this is too much, man. What's going on? So the initial review that I see here is it's a fantastic action featuring Chan in his pomp, are slightly let down by comic overkill. So they think he maybe played it up a little bit too slapsticky. And we have a comment that says honest cop, LOL. I don't disagree with that. But Shaine, your reaction to the Google description, and also why you selected this for this particular discussion.
Well, for my reaction to that, the description, I think that's a pretty good description. Yeah. And then the honest cop, it's pretty funny. But I chose it mainly because it's funny. I didn't even think about the whole police state thing, but then, when you're kind of tying everything together, I'm like, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. Wow. It's crazy. Like, I didn't even think about that. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't even, especially with nowadays, like you said, with the whole, virus thing that's happening right now. But for me personally, I've always been a Jackie Chan's fan, especially his movies. And Police Story was, I had seen other movies of his before. Like Rumble in the Bronx was the first one that kind of made me go, holy crap, this guy is someone I need to keep my eye on in terms of, seeing more of his movies. And then when I saw Police Story, I was like, okay, that's it. This guy is my favorite action star. And I always compare any action movie that I see to Police Story. And I don't know if that's fair to other people, but for me, that's just how I go, because, like you were saying before, there was someone that said that they're playing too much on the slapstick, or Jackie Chan did, since he's a director. And I can kind of see that, because there's that, and I don't know if you'll mention this or not later on, or after I'm done talking. But there's that part where, he brings the witness lady to his apartment, and his girlfriend and some other people are throwing him a surprise party. And, she sees him with this lady, and she's like, what's going on? I have a birthday cake. So what she does, she just throws the cake onto his face. And that happens quite a lot in the film, if I can recall. And there's even one part where he has a phone, and, he kind of blocks the cake at one point, and it makes a little indent with where the phone was at, the receiver. So, I'm not 100% in terms of my Chinese comedy history and how it goes, but from what I can tell, it's very slapstick and it's very physical comedy. So for them, for the Chinese audience, that's probably really funny and like highbrow, very good type of stuff. Maybe for an American audience, it's not like, especially nowadays, you see a lot of these comedies are quote unquote smart, and I don't know. But that's kind of just my initial reaction to all that and why I chose the film.
All right, very good. And yeah, just a little bit of my reaction to that. I think Rumble in the Bronx was like his first kind of breakthrough in the U.S., but I think for a lot of people it was really with Chris Tucker in what was that called?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour 1,
And
2,
then
and
Shanghai
3.
Noon.
Yeah,
Shanghai
Shane.
with Owen Wilson.
Yep.
And I was reading a little bit about the history of Jackie Chan and this particular movie, and a lot of people were viewing Jackie Chan as the next Bruce Lee, because Bruce Lee, of course, tragically died young, and he was very, he was very like he was portrayed as very intense, and very rigid. Jeet Kune Do. I'm probably saying that wrong, but very particular and very skillful in his fighting. And so Jackie purposely went the other way. He was like very much more fluid or more kind of off balance. Like Drunken Master was kind of like one of the models that he sort of went after. And then the slapstick he put in to kind of contrast with Bruce Lee. And I think that was a conscious effort to like be different than Bruce Lee rather than emulate him. Mm-hmm. But I did think that this was kind of fun to watch because he's doing all these stunts. Like,
Right.
That's Jackie doing this. He's kind of famous for doing that. And of course, you see the outtakes at the end where he like breaks his clavicle and ruptures his kidney and all this stuff. Like he's had so many injuries, man. I was reading about it. And he said recently, he's 65 now, that he can't do this stuff anymore. He needs to take care of his body. But I think that a lot of the stunts now, because they were practical, you were sort of limited by what you could actually do in physical space. And now films are so much different, so much more CGI, so much more wire work and all that stuff that this doesn't stand out anymore when you watch it in retrospect. So it kind of like loses a little bit of its luster. But I can imagine back in the 80s, this was like, holy shit, this is awesome. What is he doing, But Robert, let's go to you for your reaction to all the nonsense I said, the great stuff Shaine said, and the Google description, which is either nonsense or great. I can't tell.
Yeah, so you're right. This movie's stunts they look a bit quaint. They look a bit dated. They look like the best they could do in 1984 with the budget that they had. But not to say they don't look terrible. But there's definitely, I mean, was the slide pole in the mall scene so amazing that they had to show it 3 times? Was it so like blowing your mind that you just had to see it again and again and again?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
He actually he broke his hip on that one or something like that. That was a significant stunt. It was like 3 floors he went down.
Oh yeah, I know he really did it. It was a weird director's choice to show it 3 times. Anyway, I was a big Jackie Chan fan, just like Shaine. And Rumble in the Bronx I remember hearing some buzz about Rumble in the Bronx because I was a martial arts fan back in the 80s for sure. I mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I watched all the action movies with Schwarzenegger and Stallone, and everybody, just big Bruce Lee fan. So when I watched Rumble in the Bronx, I was like, this guy's incredible. And then he's got the charm. He's also self-efficacious. Am I even saying that word right?
Self-deprecating.
Thank you. That's fine.
Making fun of himself a little bit. He's like funny and demure or whatever.
Yeah, and I think he does it better later on. I think this is him at like peak silliness. Like, I mean, there's one scene where he's moonwalking some cow shit off his shoe. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Super ridiculous.
Well, and Shaine brought up the cakes. Like, how many cakes did they have? 3 or 4 cakes, for one guy's birthday?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, but then there's the whole plot, and the plot's actually damn good. Like a lot of movies back in the 80s, it was just like, how do we get an excuse for all the action scenes? And a lot of the martial arts films back in the day were kind of like that. And I will say that this movie falls down at the end because it makes no sense for them to be fighting in this mall when anyway, we can maybe get into the weeds in that maybe, but the film itself like starts simple enough, and it's from one bit to the next. You got this whole scene in the favela where Jackie's got a task with the, get the evil capitalist drug dealer guy, and he's captures him. And then you got this surprisingly well-written court scene with this lawyer who's making these surprisingly really good arguments to get the guy off. Like if I was in the jury box listening to this guy's arguments, I'm like, yeah, he's making some strong points there. Maybe he was just afraid for his life, and that's why he gave Jackie the money. I don't know.
Yeah, there's 80 buses that go by. How do you know that's the one? Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know? So yeah, those were sections surprisingly well written for what I expected. I expected just some kind of a slapstick kung fu movie, and it turned out to be a pretty decent plot-driven story. So I was kudos.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that a lot of kung fu karate movies are just enough plot to get it to the next action scene. That's sort of sounds like how porn is made. Like there's just enough to get you to the next sex scene.
Well, that's what you're there for. I mean, when you're writing a movie to appeal to teenage boys, and all you're really trying to do is showcase the cool martial arts moves that you've come up with for the next movie, yeah, the plot's really kind of irrelevant. I mean, I'm still a fan of movies like Bloodsport and Kickboxer for Jean-Claude Van Damme. His later stuff, not so much. But I'll still watch like a movie that I'm still a fan of to this day is Jet Li's. What's the name of it? I totally lost it. It's where he Fist of Legend. Fist of Legend. It's an excellent. It's just almost straight up about martial arts. It's just all about martial arts. He's like a kung fu master, and he's fighting other kung fu masters and stuff like that. Anyway, it's pretty damn good if you just want to see a whole bunch of cool kung fu.
I heard
Unchained. I'm easy to please.
Is the one Unleashed? Is that the one where he's like treated like a dog? And
I think the original title of the film was Danny the Dog, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, then they changed it or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard it was good. I want to go back to their very first scene, that the blockbuster opening action scene where they're trying to bust these guys for drugs. Well, first of all, that shouldn't even be a crime. Meanwhile, they're shooting randomly around all these innocent people, destroying the village, potentially killing people, driving down the hill through the village, 3 or 4 cars driving like right through the town, destroying this entire shanty town over some drugs. I mean, pretty ridiculous, but it was also like a lot of times in an action movie, they'll try to open big, a big fancy stunt to kind of draw you in, and then they'll finish with a big finish like they did in this one in the mall with the 3-story jump. Right. But do you want to address that, like how the cops handled that, and how many innocent people probably died if that had actually happened? I'll go to Shaine for that.
Yes, Shaine, defend your cop movie.
Yeah,
Shaine,
it's funny that you say that because there's a lot of like just people just I can't look at what's going on, and then Jackie's trying to be the the calm one because there's that one guy who's all like I don't know what and then he pees himself. That lovely comedic part of the film where someone pees himself who's I guess he's never been a cop before or something like that. I don't know, but it's funny that you mentioned that because I don't know. I guess he's trying to say, well, I have the magic bullet, so I don't have to worry about hitting anyone, right? Like, because he's a star of the film. I guess he kind of have that mindset. Well, everyone's just leaving or whatever. But in terms of that, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say because it seems like any type of cop movie, it's always like that, isn't it? It just to start randomly shooting or something. Or am I wrong there?
No, you're not wrong, Shaine. In every movie, like a Lethal Weapon or any kind of a cop movie, there's always big collateral damage scenes where the cops are chasing some bad guy and all kinds of shit's blowing up. So it's not unique, but it does highlight, the proportionality. Like the guy's a drug dealer. Is there a better way you could have gotten him? Do you need to, if he starts running through a favela, do you need to drive through it and just smash up a whole bunch of innocent people's homes?
But it looked cool on film. But like you said, with the budget they had, with it being in the 80s, what are you going to do?
Oh, yeah. What are they going to do? I mean, yeah. I mean, Fast and the Furious, like, 5 or something, did a cool favela driving through scene, but that was, 30 years later. It
was Bad Boys 2. They had a similar scene, like almost taken from Police Story, where they go through a thing like that. And I know we're kind of going off a tangent or whatever, but it's reminding me of there's this, kind of it's still in the same beginning of the film. They go to Shantytown and Jack is still trying to get to the, he gets to that bus where he has the umbrella, he hangs on to it and all that stuff. Well, there's a scene in Tango and Cash starring Sylvester Stallone, who apparently, I think Stallone and Chan are really good friends. I don't know if they were then. I'm not 100% in terms of what their friendship or what their relationship was back in the day. But there's a scene in Tango and Cash where there's like a couple of dudes in a semi. And, Sylvester Stallone's in a car and he drives way up ahead. And then he stops right in the middle of the road. And then he takes his little gun that looks kind of like the one that Chan has, when in that scene, when he shoots up in the air and those guys, crash through the window and they land on the concrete. You see it, right? And then in Tango and Cash, it's kind of the same thing where, he has a little gun. He takes the bullets out again, almost looks exactly like he's taken from the Police Story film. Takes the bullets out, all of them, and he spins the thing because he puts the bullets in. It looks real cool because I'm Stallone. And he stops and he puts it in, and then he goes, all right, now I'm going to shoot at him, and then shoots him, right? He shoots him, and the guy goes, oh my God, this guy's crazy. What the fuck's happening? And then he shoots him again, and then I guess they get so scared because they're like, oh my God, I might actually hit this guy and kill him. So they break, and then they get to a point where I think Stallone shoots them again when they break at the same time, and then they finally stop real quick, and then those two guys come out of the windshield of the truck, and instead of it being like a wide shot in Police Story, it's like a close up of you see the two dudes and it's going like, and then it cuts right when they hit the concrete, and then Stallone has his thanks for stopping by. Thanks for dropping by, guys. You like jewelry? And he gives him the handcuffs, and then the guy's fuck you. And Stallone says, I prefer blondes. Stallone with his one-liners, hilarious.
You got to have the one-liners. Jackie didn't seem to have a whole lot of one-liners in this.
No, it was just I got this my stunt that I show 3 times. That's my one-liner. Both, like you said. Why do you got to show it 3 times? It's funny that you meant. I figured you were gonna say that because I had a feeling because. I remember watching that movie with my grandpa, and he's like, "Why are they showing it 3 times? I don't understand." I'm like, "It's cool, okay? Calm down."
But it's not cool. I mean, maybe it was in 1985.
Right.
Jackie can do what he wants. He broke his hip on it, whatever.
He also apparently burns, his hands or skin or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, I believe it. Probably ripped some skin off for sure on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Shaine just called you old man.
Yeah. Yeah. No. He's right.
Yeah, that's some grandpa style questions right there.
Why they gotta show it 3 times? Not in my porch. I don't understand things.
All right, so let's talk. You mentioned the courtroom scene, Robert. I want to bring you to the police station where they're leaning on the girlfriend or whatever, the damsel in distress, to turn her as state's witness against her employer.
Yes.
And they use some mindfuckery, like some psychology shit on
way smarter than a movie like this deserves.
Right. Yeah. They're like, hey, we need to talk to your client alone. You need to leave. And somehow he agrees to leave. The lawyer agrees to leave. I can't believe that he did that. But then they just fucking stand there. They just sit there for a few minutes, and then they know
she's free to go.
Yeah, and then they know that that's going to rattle the lawyer.
Because when he asks her, what did they ask you? And then she says nothing. Then he'll think that she's hiding something, but she actually isn't. Super good mind fuckery.
Yeah, I mean,
it's clever.
There's some clever shit in this amidst the slapstick of the 7 cakes and the 17 phones that ring, and he has to spin around and answer this phone and try to answer that.
What was that scene even about? Was it just to highlight the fact that Jackie Chan can juggle phones?
Well, and
did anything actually happen in that scene? I don't even remember. It was just a bunch of silly phone stuff.
And how poorly ran that police station was. And like, there's this woman in a domestic violence situation, and he's like mixing up all these calls, and like, that's the level of service you get, man. It's fucked up.
Jackie Chan would make a terrible secretary. It's true.
But
why don't they have phones where you could like hit the buttons? You know, back in the day, you have a little phone. You can hold line 2, hold line 3.
It's the 80s, man. It's the 80s.
Maybe he was showcasing that. See, I'm not a superhero. I can't do everything. I can't answer all these phones. I mean, come on. What do you want from me?
Yeah, he's just trying to eat.
Yeah.
Much like you earlier on this very, very show, Robert.
I was enjoying a nice rice and lentil dish, Daniel. Thank you. With my vintage raspberry wine. Thank you much.
Now, was this from your restaurant? Is this extra food that you can't sell to customers due to state interventions?
No, we do Thai food. This was not Thai food at all. This was an Indian thing that my uncle made.
All right. Well, that has nothing to do with this movie, but
absolutely fuck all to do. I don't know why you're bringing it up, but that's all right.
You know, I just want the audience to know we're real people. We're just trying to
really. We put our pants on our heads too. Okay.
Boots and pants, whatever. So anyway, yeah, this was interesting, and then they lean on her to flip her against her will, against her employer, and she doesn't want to, but they position it in such a way to where her boss is threatened by her now, and there actually is a hit put out on her, which Jackie in this film fucking lies about. He's trying to justify his existence to her by having his cop buddy break in and threaten to murder her, you know, in that like weird scene. And when you don't know that's the cop buddy, you're watching and you're like, this is corny, man. He's like choreographically like not stabbing her when he easily could. And so it kind of took me out of it because I didn't know that was what was going on. I just thought, this is fucking corny, man. But then you realize what it is, and then it sort of makes sense. But it's like you almost needed to establish that maybe a little bit differently to make it more effective. Granted, you do want to feel like she's actually in danger. So I don't know how better to do it, but maybe make it look more like she was actually in danger to present that she's actually in danger, you know? Like make it more real, really real threatening looking, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a goofy scene. There's a lot of goofy scenes in this movie. This movie goes back and forth between serious and goofy. It juggles all kinds of different like themes and vibes and just feels. And I don't know if it's always doing it. I think there's some lost in translation stuff too. Clearly, right. I think this probably hit like Hong Kong audiences really, really hard back in 1985. Less so much me in 2020. So it's hard to fault it for that.
It was weird because when they were talking to her at the police station, it was almost as if she had similar, American courtroom style rights, like when talking to the police, like not to incriminate herself, and you need to charge me or arrest me or something like this. And they sort of mentioned it as if they're going to respect that, but then they just say, well, we're going to compel you to do this or else. And we're going to make you have Jackie be your personal bodyguard or else, so it was like this weird mix. And I don't know if it was like just because of how they wrote it and they just had to have, a reason for Jackie to kind of be hipped to her, but it kind of just was awkward, and it was like I think the movie showed just how inept the police can be and how much of a bully they can be. They have you over a barrel, like you're definitely at a disadvantage in any interaction with them.
Like in her like in her eyes, and kind of like you were saying, they were basically saying, you're this guy's going to be your bodyguard or else, or else, a little wink, wink. Right. So yeah, that's an interesting point that you made. But to me, like with the whole kind of with them, I guess Jackie being the bodyguard or something like that, like in the beginning of the movie, he's kind of just a guy. He's kind of, he's not like some superior. He's not just, hey, hey, Jackie, you're going to be the person who's going to get this guy. He's kind of, when they have the whole briefing, if this is who we're going to try and get, or this is the crime lord we're trying to get or whatever. He's just one of the guys that's in the classroom or wherever it is that they're in. And he's kind of, one of those guys. And the guy that you're also mentioning too, where they're, you know, the fake attack on the girl or whatever. I think her name is Selena, the character. And I think maybe, like you were saying, I think they should maybe established him a little bit more, like you said, because it kind of like takes you out of that scene a little bit. But kind of going back to Jackie being the bodyguard or whatever, he's just a guy. So he kind of, like, I guess in the police's eyes or something like that, he kind of steps up his game, I guess, to say, like, see, I can do this, or I can be you know, I can be the cop that everyone needs me to be, or something. I don't know. But I guess that's also kind of not true too, because then his superior is like, why did you do like all vigilante on us? Like you should have, you know, we had this all planned out. You didn't have to do all that, even though you caught him. So thank you for that. But at the same time, you didn't have to, you know, do all that, because they had that scene too where he's talking to the press or whatever, and he's all like, oh, I just did what they told me to do, you know, that thing. So in terms of the way I look at it, in terms of him kind of like being propelled, obviously Jack is going to be the main character. I mean, it's obvious, right? But in terms of just the story, he's just a guy. He just becomes that guy that they choose to be this the witness's bodyguard, because he's shown that he can take these type of cases or something like that. I don't know. So they kind of just choose him to be that guy or something. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anything I just said, kind of, you know.
No, it does make sense, and it makes me think like maybe they should have established that Jackie's like a rookie cop or new to this particular force, and he's like an unknown quantity to them, and he establishes his abilities during this bust.
Right.
Because yeah, you're right. It is kind of back and forth. Like he does something amazing, but then they're kind of mad at him about it. But then he tries to like defer to, oh, it's a team effort. It's due to the planning of the commissioner and all this junk. And then they sort of like saddle him with this assignment of being her bodyguard. But then later on, they're treating him in the media's eyes as super cop. You know, they're getting these promo photos taken and billboard and recruitment posters and all this stuff. And so it's a little bit like maybe it is lost in translation a little, because it's as if they're sort of like playing both sides of it without picking a side.
Yeah, there's definitely some of that for sure. And when you were talking about him, like the promotional and stuff like that, the theme song, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure, but the theme song was actually used in like police to recruit people. That song was used for a while, and also I guess his picture with you know, and them taking that picture, I think that was used for promotional photos too for the police or something. I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't know if this is all like this whole thing was just, hey Jackie, can you make a movie where we need some cops? We're losing this movie. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just
we funded this film. Yeah,
it's sort of like how Top Gun was, you know, to get more Navy pilots.
Yeah, because I don't think there was a movie like this at the time, and well, in Hong Kong, especially in their film industry. I don't think there was like there wasn't like a police kung fu type of film. It was all period pieces. I mean, the movie he did before this was like, you know, he did Project A. He had Wheels on Meals that he did too. I think that was before. I'm like screwing my timeline or whatever. But I know Project A was before this, so you know, it was still more the period type of stuff, you know, and so yeah, I don't know. But it would be kind of interesting if this was actually funded by the police back in the day. That'd be kind of funny.
As a Western viewer, seeing this for the first time, I've seen a lot of Asian cinema, but I've never seen this movie before, and I've never seen, I think, movies set in Hong Kong in this period, and it struck me as weird and just kind of off-putting, seeing all the evidence of the British colonialism in Hong Kong, where you don't see it in, say, Shanghai or Beijing or Tokyo or anything like that in those other cinemas. So it's just weird to see, you know, these Hong Kong guys in these British wigs doing the stuff. And then there's a lot of English words, like when they're like saying yes, sir. And, you know, there's these little bits of English that they would throw in here and there and mix it in with their, what is it, like Mandarin? I don't know what they're speaking.
It was Cantonese.
But did that strike you as a little bit odd, Daniel? I mean, it was weird for me.
Yeah, it was. But knowing the, you know, a little bit of the history, that it was a British possession until I think 97, and then it went back to China. That you see those types of things kind of stick around. Like there's still some of that in India and wherever the British Empire was. Sun never set on it. It was weird to also see like how much Hong Kong has changed in the intervening 30 years or so. Because now you see Hong Kong is like totally modern, industrialized, and I imagine it was like compared to the rest of Asia at the time, or the rest of that area, like China, that this was very much the major city in the area because it was westernized and more free than the alternatives at the time. And there was a video game that I played a couple of years ago called Sleeping Dogs, and it's based in Hong Kong. And so it felt like I could like almost recognize some of the little areas from that video game from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's interesting too with like with Rush Hour being the kind of the movie like we were mentioning before. That was like the big film for Jackie, and when you teamed with Chris Tucker. But that was a plot point was during that time because it was in '97. I think it was set when, like you said, Hong Kong was going to go back to being to China. And that was a plot point in Rush Hour. So that's kind of interesting. Or I think the main villain or something was part of that. Oh yeah, well, congratulations, China, on getting Hong Kong back or something like that.
Yeah, and interesting plot point in this one is I think the gang that the drug gang in this is the Triads. Of course, that's the famous gang in Hong Kong. Jackie himself was involved with the Triads. Like he left his prior production company that he had a contract with due to Triad interference of getting him out of that contract, and that's how he got into whatever this production company was, Golden Harvest or whatever.
Golden,
Golden Harvest. So he was with another group before this, but then the Triad got him out of that. So he had some kind of fishy connections way back in the day, apparently.
Yeah, that's not new. The mafia interfering with entertainment. They like money.
I like money.
money.
So Shaine, now that we've beat this up a little bit, defend it a little bit. Like, what pushback do you have from what we've said so far? Have we shaken your confidence at all, or have we hardened you in your steadfastness of loving Jackie Chan and this particular movie?
Well, I mean, I guess for for Robert, who he's never seen the movie before. So for a first time viewer, it's always interesting to especially with a movie like this, kind of hear what someone like him has to say in terms of a first time viewer. So I can definitely understand in terms of the too much of the goofiness and then kind of going back and forth with the serious tone versus the goofy tone. But I do think, and I know you've mentioned this before too, where there's some just loss of translation or whatever, where I'm sure back in the day when this came out, it was a big hit because it won. I'm sure for you guys, it'll probably be a surprise or maybe not. I don't know. But they have this Hong Kong Film Awards that they do. It's kind of like the Oscars, but it's the Hong Kong version, I guess. And Police Story won Best Film. So take that however you want. But it also won, Best Action Choreography because unlike here in Hollywood, there's no stunt category in an Oscar. But their whole livelihood or most of the livelihood is stunts. So it won Best Action Choreography. So just like for me, I've always looked at it as just a pure action film, I guess. I never really I guess I kind of glossed over the goofiness because some of it hits and some of it doesn't. And I guess it kind of depends on my mood because I always enjoy whenever he gets hit in the face with that cake and that phone, that shape of the phone on his face. It always makes me crack up. I mean, I'm sorry. I just look at it and I go, I don't know how much they thought, oh man, this be great. This is going to be great. It's going to be a 10 out of 10 comedy. Here we go. And it does have that, it has that Three Stooges type of thing, going on. And again, if you like that type of comedy, you're going to love this movie. And if not, you're just going to be like, I don't know what is going on. I don't like it at all, So
yeah. And there's a lot of scenes where Jackie's like totally making shit up. Like his character is. You know, like he says he's answering the phone and talking to his girlfriend, but she's actually standing behind him, and he's playing this conversation as if to impress Selena,
Mhm.
you know. And he did that another time or two or something in this, and it's like, you know, he's like intentionally going out of his way to make him look better than he actually is in the eyes of whoever is watching him. You know, and it's sort of like when he was trying to justify his existence for being her bodyguard, so he had to have her life be threatened, and then he was trying to justify like how he treated his actual girlfriend to try to impress this new girl, and then when she and this was a little confusing to me, like she discovered that he was lying to her, so then she made very suggestive comments to him and kind of got him to go along with it.
Oh,
I guess
yeah.
and then like shot him down and was like, well, I'm gonna go, you know, sleep in your bed, you're gonna sleep on the couch, and then she disappears, and then the court
and then
case,
that tape gets played in court.
Right.
yeah, that tape gets played in court, which I don't know how that would even be admissible, like, and how it was just that was weird, and of once it's played in court, you can totally hear it one way,
Mm-hmm.
and this was intentional, of course.
Right.
When you saw the scene, it's like, okay, you kind of know what's going on, that she's playing him up and whatever. But when they played in court, of course, everyone's going to hear that as this was an actual thing, that a sultry situation happened. And it's kind of embarrassing or whatever. And I guess that's, you know, that's comedy. Maybe a little bit
Did
of
that did that hit for you, Daniel? Were you chuckling to yourself?
I saw what they were trying to do. It wasn't terrible. It was.
I thought it was.
Least
I
favorite.
appreciate that there was a setup and then a payoff in a
Yeah.
way that I didn't anticipate. It didn't make me laugh, but I appreciated the cleverness of it. And there was a lot of scenes in this movie that I was like that. I was like, I appreciate you actually put quite a bit of thought into this script, which is kind of just why it disappointed me towards the end when they're like, okay, we're going to have this big action kung fu scene in this mall. How do we get to this mall? We got all these characters. We got a cop. We got Selena, this informant. We got these gangster guys. How do we get them all in this mall? Well, they just all show up at this mall for no reason. Okay. And then they start fighting. And then some character has a motorcycle. How did he get that motorcycle? We don't know. He's just driving it. It's fine. There's just a lot of silliness, and it's okay because, you know, you solve things by punching them. That's how you solve.
You didn't think the action scene at the end was cool, like all the fighting? I mean, I know like going to the mall, whatever. I could, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought someone's like office was there or something, but maybe I'm thinking of something else. But you didn't think the ending action was like amazing?
Oh, well, I've been spoiled by a million better amazing action films, many by Jackie Chan since then. So yeah, I mean, this is his early work. You know, you can see where the brilliance was. You can see him with his raw talent and his energy. And you saw what was going to carry him on with the star power. I mean, he's definitely got a lot of charisma and charm that carries over to an international audience, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I can't think, there aren't a whole lot of Asian stars that have breakout hits over here. I mean, Jet Li, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan. Well, there's quite a few others, but those are the action ones. Anyway, yeah. So, what was I saying? I don't know.
What the fuck was I talking about? You mentioned the motorcycle. I wanted to mention the scooter when his girlfriend was trying to drive away, and he like pulled it out from under her, and she like flew off and all this. Yeah, I think she actually fell. Like that looked
domestic
painful.
Violence, man.
Yeah,
that's why he goes. Oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh no.
And I'll be honest. I watched this the other night. I was so tired. I was like drifting in and out of sleep during the climactic mall fight scene. I had no idea why we were at the mall. I had no idea how long I would sleep between waking up.
Daniel, I was paying attention the whole time, and I had no idea where we were at the mall.
See, you could have got some rest, man.
I could have slept my way to that point and been equally as clueless.
No, but here's the thing. The reason why I feel this way is, I think because of all this COVID-19 shit. I think there's this higher level of like anxiety or stress going on in the world right now. And so like, I can't stay up late anymore. I just get tired. Do you remember when you came to the cabin we were staying at after our first kid was born? And I had like 2 beers with you, and I was fucking hungover for days after that. I think it was because of all this like hormonal shit going on. You know, when you have a kid, I feel like a similar thing is going on now. And I don't know if it's just me or if it's like going to be
having a baby
that's affecting people, like this heightened level of stress, this heightened like uncertainty in what's going on in the world. And I'll tie this to the movie. Shaine, do you think that there's any validity to the idea that this virus contagion hysterics had anything to do with the protests that were brewing in Hong Kong for months and months and months, and people were like hiding their face because there's all this like biometric shit going on. It's like an extradition treaty that was being pushed on the residents of Hong Kong to be brought into China. And of course, who knows what happens when you get put in a camp in China, you know? I mean, you kind of get the idea of what goes on. That this was the perfect excuse to disperse that, to cut the legs out from a movement like that. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, because it feels like if that was what it is, it's gotten way out of hand. It's gotten well beyond that. We're no longer just looking at Hong Kong anymore. But have you heard that, and have you been familiar with what was going on in Hong Kong prior to this? And what's your take on what they were protesting against, and if they were effective in that? And one little cherry on top, apparently Jackie was critical of the Hong Kong protesters.
Yeah, kind of going to your last point with Jackie being critical. It wasn't just Jackie. It was almost the whole like film industry there was like basically being on the CCP side. I mean, that's kind of the thing there. Like if you have to be for the CCP or else. I think there's been a couple people who were like saying some not friendly CCP things, and then they, you know, said, hey, you know, you gotta put the kibosh on that. But yeah, so the politics of Jackie Chan is definitely, you know, one that you kind of just be like, okay. So it's one of those things you have to just kind of turn your knob off, you know, your brain off whenever you watch a Jackie Chan film. I know where your politics are, so I kind of know where you're going to go with this movie, but you kind of have to just look at it with a, you know, eat your popcorn and drink your soda type of thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just giving him a pass. I probably am, but anyway, with the Hong Kong protesters and all that, I haven't really heard a connection in terms of the whole COVID-19 and the Hong Kong protesters, but it is an interesting, that is pretty interesting that you mentioned that, because I mean, as far as I know, the protests were, I'm pretty sure they were doing some good, you know, they were doing, you know, like you said with the extradition bill or whatever. I probably said that word wrong, but just the amount of people that were doing all that, you know, protesting, and then the government saying, okay, you know, we got to do something about this or whatever. But I was also kind of seeing that the U.S. government was involved. And, you know, when I was reading into some of that and how the CIA and I guess like even Ted Cruz or some other U.S. politicians were traveling there when that was all happening. And I was just like, that's kind of weird, you know? And I can't exactly remember the timeline of it. I think it was, I don't remember exactly, but I don't know, maybe Ted Cruz needs to be tested because it's possible. Maybe, you know, maybe he's got the coronavirus or something. But yeah, so that is an interesting tidbit about that. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting because Hong Kong's always been seen, you know, from I guess from a U.S. standpoint as, you know, the basin of quote unquote democracy, or just you know, a more free China, I suppose, because it's kind of like with Taiwan. You know, Taiwan's kind of seen as, it's still, you know, China still considers Taiwan as part of it, as part of its own, or whatever, but Taiwan doesn't. And so I don't know. I'm probably going way off topic on what you're trying to ask me, but I don't know. That whole thing was just kind of interesting because there were so many aspects to the protest that, like I was saying before, with like some of the U.S. politicians were being involved. So like there's possible like a CIA weird operation happening there. Maybe the whole thing was created from the U.S. government. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too conspiracy theory with that. Maybe it was a genuine, the Hong Kong people were very genuine. Like, this is not good because, one of our own is being captured for no reason. So I don't know. I'm not 100% an expert on that. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask, but that's just how I felt about the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. And I just remember seeing the events kind of going on, but not paying super close attention. But I know that there was like facial recognition. And so people were wearing masks and they were like banning masks but they were still like continuing to protest and rubber bullets and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, how do you defeat this? If you're a totalitarian government, what do you do? And
yeah, their government there is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't even know, like, without what, because people complain about our media here in America, how, the corporate press is just, anti-Trump, or you're either you're MSNBC, CNN, you hate Trump, or you're Fox News, Trump is the greatest person ever who ever lived and he's God or something like that. But in China, it's just, no, you just listen to CCTV and that's it. If you listen to anything else, we're going to come after you or something like that. I don't know.
It's going to affect your Sesame credit score, citizen.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we're probably at a point now where we can dig up any of our final notes before we get into summary and review where we scored out of 10. Robert, do you have any notes that you have not yet discussed on this particular episode with Shaine from What's HAPAning?
Everything that I have written down has been mentioned. Excellent job, everyone. Or bad job, me, in taking notes.
Yeah, my notes are pretty sparse. I think it was part of the tiredness. Shaine, is there anything else that we haven't already touched on that you feel is important that we should talk about? Maybe where this went franchise wise. I heard that Police Story 2 is actually even better.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun or whatever, but in terms of first to second, it's, like The Godfather. Oh, it's either you like one or the other. But yeah, the Police Story 2 is it's just as good, or I'm sure some people say it's better or not as good, but I think it's equal. I think they're both very good. The thing too is because, like, with the first one, like you're saying, they start with this really good, elaborate shantytown, chase or whatever. In the second film, there's really nothing. It doesn't really start with anything crazy. Like the beginning. I don't know if you saw the second one because I know you did buy the first one, the second one with I think the Criterion collection, I believe it was.
Yeah, the fancy one that came out. It made me think like this is a like a cult classic. Like this is a film that had a cultural impact, and thus it was worthy of doing a Criterion release. So yeah, and so yeah, keep going. Police Story 2, and then what is the cultural impact? Like why would Criterion make a special edition of it?
Well, I think maybe a little bit of it is that Jackie considers Police Story 1 to be his best action film, so that could be part of it. But also, I think it's because, with the grounded stunt work and especially like with the 80s, and it's very of its time, because obviously nowadays, we have the CGI and, the crazy Fast and the Furious type of stuff that we have nowadays. I mean, now you can just pouring millions of dollars into, we don't need to have Tom. Well, actually, no, that's a bad example. Tom Cruise still, does his own stunts because I'm Tom Cruise and do whatever I want, apparently, because I'm a Scientologist. But like someone like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an actor that doesn't do his own stunts. I don't know, Harrison Ford. Like Harrison Ford, for example. Oh yeah, we can't have Harrison Ford do his own stunts. No, we can't do that because he's Harrison Ford. We got to have a stunt double. That's another thing too. Jackie does get doubled in this movie. In the motorcycle, when he's riding the motorcycle, that's not Jackie. There's a part in the mall fight. It's a very brief cut, but it's so obvious his hair is shorter. Like it's so obviously his hair is shorter in a couple of parts. And if you rewatch the ending, and there's some parts where he falls on his back and his hair is obviously short. I think there's one part where, now I lost my train of thought on that. But anyway, yeah. So in terms of the cultural impact, it's just considered to be like the quintessential Hong Kong action film, I guess. And like you're saying, he wanted to be different from Bruce Lee because they're trying to pin him as he's the next Bruce Lee because they had all those copycat Bruce Lee films, Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee. They try to put out as many clone Bruce Lee movies as they possibly could to see what would stick, and nothing would stick. And then Jackie actually did star in a film back when he was still doing that. You're Bruce Lee, you're gonna like it. You're not gonna have a choice on this. It was called like New Fist of Fury, which is obviously, Bruce Lee had a movie called Fist of Fury, and just put new in it. It'll be fine, whatever. But that didn't work out. And then he did The Protector, which was supposed to be his breakout film in America because he did a movie called Battle Creek Brawl or The Big Brawl or something. I think that was his first his first true leading role in a Hollywood movie. That didn't do too well. Then he did The Protector, which they try to make him be like a Clint Eastwood person, which is like, okay, I don't know. But then Police Story was a result of that because he was so disappointed and he didn't like how Hollywood worked with him. So he's like, I'm going to make my own cop movie. And then because Police Story became what it was, and then once that came out, then all these cop movies started coming out after that. So just with that alone, I think that's one of the reasons why it became such a classic. And I think, I don't know what the main reason that Criterion Collection would decide to make a HD, was it 4K remaster of the first two films. I mean, Police Story 3 is probably the most known in terms of American audiences because it's known as Super Cop here. So,
there's like this fancy like fold out poster with like a painting, rendition of the art, and he's got a semi-automatic in it. And in the movie, they all have these 38 special, the typical cop gun from the 70s or whatever. So it's like a reimagining, and it looks really badass. And it in seeing it, I was like, oh man, this movie looks like it's gonna be awesome. And I watched it, like, it's kind of quaint, but I'm glad that we saw it. I'm glad we did it. And I'll just do my summary and review. I think that this is a fun movie, and if you have the energy to get through it all, it's a fun watch. And Jackie does his own stunts. He has an interesting plot line going on. There actually is some pretty smart dialogue going on. You get to see a lot of kind of just fun little moments. There's the slapstick in there that seems to be to differentiate him, and he kind of establishes him as kind of the brand, the Jackie brand of his persona. You see that in his later films, his later work. So I think it kind of establishes him as, the Jackie Chan that we all know and love. And so, yeah, for that, I'll say it's a good movie and it's worth watching. I think it's pretty heavily dated. The practical stunt work, though amazing, it kind of, due to the limitations of the time, they probably couldn't film it in such a way like Matrix style, where, with some wires and some like different camera technology, they could have gotten really kind of more intimately like showing you what's going on and make it more exciting. But it's really well done. And since that, he's actually doing it, it's like, holy shit, that probably hurt, But so I'm going to go with 5.5 on this. So, not the greatest review, but not the worst. And it was a fun discussion. I've set the stage for Robert to be the low man on the poll here for the scoring. And then we'll finish off strong with you, Shaine. So, Robert, your final summary.
Dare you? You think I'm going to go below 5.5 on a Jackie Chan kung fu movie? You don't know who you're talking to, sir.
Or I know you well.
I'm a huge kung fu fan. I used to stay up late and watch HBO, whatever they had. Just any kind of, if it was kung fu, I was there. So I'm a big nerd for that kind of stuff. I always wanted to see the new moves that they would do. Oh, did you see that tornado kick? That was sick. That's when I saw like Tony Jaa come out with all his elbows and knees stuff. That was really exciting too.
Yeah.
But anyway, Police Story. I think they perfected. I think this is an early work by Jackie. I think he got better as he aged. Not now, but when he hit his prime in like the late 90s, early 2000s, I think he was prime Jackie. I think it's a little bit awkward when he goes from a serious crime drama movie to Three Stooges, and then back to serious crime drama movie. It was just off-putting to me. Like, it took me out of the film. Like, I understand he's kind of a goofy guy, and I, like Daniel was saying, it's his brand, and I agree with that. But there are more subtle ways to mix the two things together. I think you got your chocolate in my peanut butter, and then peanut butter in my chocolate, and it's a little bit off-putting for my Western eyeballs. So I can't, obviously, and if I was a Hong Kong kid in 1985, I'd probably be eating this up with a spoon and laughing along with everybody else in the theater. Yeah, you. But these Gaijin eyeballs in 2020, it's a little bit like, watching something you don't identify with. When I get the action, I get the drama, I get the story, but then the comedy is like, what? So that it just, wasn't for me, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be. It's not for everybody. So for me though, but I can't give it lower than a 5.5, and that's just scandalous. No, this movie is way too well done, except for the final part. Story-wise, just the cleverness. You can't go below a 6.5. It's between a 6.5 and a 7. So it's like a 6.7. It's not Jackie's best work. I appreciate that it's his favorite. And I expected a whole lot more kung fu. There's really only like 2 main kung fu scenes, maybe 3 that I can even remember. I mean, there's the bus scene, then there's the scene where they're attacked in the alleyway, and then there's the finale. Yeah. But in between all that, it's like pretty decent written drama. And I'm like, okay, this is good. I didn't expect such good writing. And there's probably still a whole bunch being lost in translation. So yeah, 6.7. Go see it. Good stuff.
All right. I'm not used to being the hater on this. So Shaine, maybe we've turned you. Maybe you'll be the hater on this. What's your final summary review and score out of 10, please?
Well, I mean, it's not fair because, I mean, this is my favorite Jackie film. So, I mean, if I gave it anything less than a 10, I would consider myself a hater or something. I don't know. But in terms of like going from serious to comedic, I can definitely get someone who's not used to that, like, that type of style or whatever. I can understand not just you, Robert, but anyone who's never seen it before, who just kind of goes into it fresh and they go, wait, what? First they go from, being demeaning to the lady, and then all of a sudden a pie to the guy's face, and something like that, so, but if you want something more, that's more serious drama and it's still more of a cop film and it stars Jackie Chan, then I would suggest Crime Story, because that's like Police Story, but it's pretty much all the serious stuff, but it stars Jackie Chan. So if you want more of that type of thing, then I would suggest that. And it was interesting that, Robert, that you said that Chan's peak was late 90s, early 2000s. Am I correct? Is that what you said?
For me, yeah, that was his Rush Hour / Shanghai Nights period.
That's interesting that you say that, because
that was when he was peak Hollywood.
In terms of
action star.
Yeah, in terms of like international recognition, that's for sure his number one time. For me though, I think just from his 80s to early 90s stuff, to me, is my personal favorite of his, because I think he started to kind of, once he did Drunken Master 2, that was like his swan song. Like, I still got it, but after this, I'm probably not going to be able to do something like this ever again. And he hasn't done really anything that crazy in terms of just pure martial arts film, or just pure action, because that movie has a ton of action, and interspersed with some of the drama and comedy that's in that film. But sticking with Police Story, I mean, regardless of everything that has been said for me too, in terms of the the serious to comedy, going back and forth, the mall scene not really making any sense other than, oh, we gotta have the cool finale, which, I mean, to me, I watched that finale like once a month or so, and I was like, man, this is crazy. How are you able to do this type of stuff? And I know, like, for you, you say that, well, oh yeah, in 1985 they weren't able to have these type of angles, whatever, and we go Matrix and all that stuff. But for me, it's the perfect action film in terms of just an action, not like plot or anything like that. Just the action itself. I look at Police Story and I always go, my head just explodes every time I see him getting knocked off, and he lands on the floor. And I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but in the ending of the film where he gets pushed and Jackie, like he goes through this like little wooded, I don't know, it's like really weak looking like barrier or something. He goes through it and then he wakes up, or he gets up, and did you notice that guy on the right side of the screen where he's going like this? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Anyway, I can see it in my head, but just the things like that, like it's just simple, because if one of us three did that, or all three of us did something like that, we'd probably be like, okay, I'm probably not going to ever want to walk again or something, because it's crazy. I just look at it from a pure action standpoint, and just, I mean, I have to give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, that's the whole reason why I brought, we're talking about it's because of me. And if I say, oh yeah, 2 out of 10, because you guys convinced me it sucks, whatever, but I definitely understand your points. So I'm definitely not just going to, say, screw everything you just said and everything negative. I'm just going to look at it with a blind, with wipers and whatever. But there's definitely some loss in translation for sure. I think the courtroom scenes were good. The beginning is definitely, in terms of just the opening of any film, I think it's really good. It really kind of, okay, we're going to, this is going to be good. We're going to get into this. All right, cool. And then because for me, maybe because I don't know a whole lot about Kung Fu as much as you do, Robert, but for me, I don't even think a whole lot of Kung Fu was done. It's just for him, oh, I'm going to push this guy through a car door and it's going to fall off the car. That's not
definitely, yeah. Jackie Chan movies are never about technique and cool style moves. It's more about interacting with the environment, and yeah, exactly. And then how much damage the hero takes and he perseveres and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and for that, like if we ever, in a future time we talk about Police Story 2, it's like you thought he took a beating in the first one. In the second film, holy Jesus Christ, man. That guy gets an ass whooping at the end of the film, Jackie Chan. I mean, Jesus. And then he's like, oh my God, he still wins? Damn. Talk about perseverance. Holy shit. But yeah, and if we want to talk about Police Story 2 at a future time, I'm totally there. We can talk about all the Police Story films. I mean, Jesus. But because the first two really go hand in hand, and then 3 and 4 kind of go hand in hand because they're directed by Stanley Tong, the same guy. And then 5 and 6 are just in name only, really, because the 5th one's New Police Story.
6 of them?
Yeah, there's 6 of them. The 5th one's New Police Story, and then the 6th one's like Police Story 2013 or Police Story Lockdown. I don't know. I watched that Lockdown film, and I'm just like, this is by far the worst.
How many did Jackie do? Just the first 3?
No, he did all 6 of them. He's in all of them.
Oh.
But it just in terms of like, partnering or whatever, the first 2 obviously kind of go hand in hand because the second one takes place about a little like after the first one. And then 3, he's with Michelle Yeoh. For Super Cop, as it's known in America and international. And then 4 is Jackie Chan's First Strike. That's what it's known as. But it's actually the 4th Police Story film. But yeah, but yeah. For my score, 10 out of 10. I'm sorry.
You have nothing to apologize, sir.
Yeah,
that's great. You brought it, and I think you defended it pretty well. And I'd love to have you come back and do Police Story 2 and any of the other ones. That'd be awesome. And to the point of peak Jackie Chan, yeah, Robert, I got what you were saying, that was like his Hollywood peak. But Shane, you're probably thinking about his physical peak. I don't think of Jackie Chan as this like super cut, ripped dude. No. I think of it a little bit like maybe a little bit poundy, But the shirtless scene in this, I was like, holy crap, he's that like fit. Because even in this movie, you see him with like these little sweater things on or whatever, and he kind of looks like Jackie Chan. But that one scene, yeah, he's cut. I mean, he's like peak physical form. in the 80s and 90s, I think.
Yeah, he had to be what, mid-20s in this film?
He's
Early
65
mid-20s?
now, so what was that? That's 30 years ago? 35 years ago? Yeah.
He was born in 54, I believe. So he was probably in his 30s or
So he's 31.
30 something. Yeah.
Yeah, and as we know, we old men here, it's all downhill from there. You'll get there, Shaine. Don't ever grow up. Cherish,
Die young, my friend.
cherish it. But anyway, this is a lot of fun, and we will continue on a little bit longer in our Kathleen Turner Overdrive, available for our Patreon supporters. So go to lastnighters.com/Patreon if you're able to stick around for that as well. This is episode 117 of the show. The show notes and more and everything will be on lastnighters.com/117. You can also find this on the Launchpad Media. Robert, there are a couple of ways that people can support what we do here. If you wouldn't mind listing them off just real briefly, real quickly, maybe throw in like a teaser of some sort for something that we might do or promise and then not actually do. That would be good, because then we could like underdeliver.
What the hell are you talking about? I am so confused right now. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. I'll just say that, you can support us by reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. You can subscribe to us. You can support us on Patreon. You could buy a t-shirt at Trebster.com. You could do any of those things and more. You are infinitely more creative, and you can probably think of many other ways to support us, simply by telling a friend, recommending the podcast to anybody who's interested in podcasts. You know, there's a lot of people who are sitting around lately due to these pandemic lockdown stuffs, and they are looking for entertainment. They're finding themselves with more free time, and maybe they're looking to improve themselves. I don't know if you can improve yourself with this podcast.
No, definitely not.
You could maybe learn a thing or two, but only like accidentally.
Yeah, purely
accidentally. Yeah. So I don't know if I'd recommend us for, self-improvement, but for maybe a little bit of perverse entertainment, you could do it this way.
Okay, and even leave us a hate review. We got one a little while ago. Some left anarchist was like, 1 out of 5 stars. This is not real anarchy. You guys are terrible. You support the free market and voluntary interactions. It's like the worst thing ever. That's me paraphrasing.
I'm waiting for libertarianism to be blamed for the pandemic. So,
it's already happened. It's already happened.
Being blamed. I mean, come on, you're late to the game there.
Articles.
We've already been blamed.
Yeah.
Caitlin
we don't run anything though. So how are we to blame?
There's a couple of people that tweeted about it. Oh yeah, this whole thing basically proves that libertarianism is dead. Okay, sir. All right, ma'am.
Yeah. Crystal Ball put something out that said that this is your libertarian ideal. It's failed. This is
but they had to get rid of red tape and regulations. No, totally not. That's totally not a libertarian thing to do, is get rid of regulations and red tape. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, there's an old curmudgeon guy. We'll call him Bob because that's his name. I'm not going to say his last name, but he challenges a lot of these people who write these things. He'll go right on their public page, like famous journalists and whatever, and be like, "Hey, I challenge you to prove to me that you even understand the Austrian position or the libertarian position before you go and denigrate it like this." Mm-hmm. And not one of them ever demonstrates that they understand what we're really all about. So
no, they never do. It's always straw man attacks.
Yeah, and from my understanding, just as of this recording, the most recent Jimmy Dore episode, I think he had Dave Smith on, because I guess there were some people saying that Jimmy Dore was criticizing libertarians or whatever about all this stuff, and I guess people were telling Jimmy, "Hey, you should have Dave Smith on, at least have him present the libertarian position so you have better understanding." It's kind of funny too, because, and I'm sure you would attest this and agree, but a lot of the left wing, I don't know, what do you want to call them, socialists or even just progressives, whatever, they would find themselves agreeing with libertarians more often than they think they do. Especially like, the stance on, anti-war, all the government spending and all that stuff.
The drug war.
A lot of stuff. It's just, the way I look at it, it's just how they, in terms of the solution of how to fix the problems and where that money should go. That's kind of where the butting heads go, So
yeah, we've said this in the past, and we should probably wind this down here before getting the bonus stuff. That oftentimes the left and like a Bernie Sanders type will be very good at identifying there's a problem with X. There's something wrong with X, but their prescription is more of what the problem was caused by.
Exactly.
How they don't see that is kind of beyond me. But
the government is doing this bad stuff here, but I think the government should do this over here, because it won't be that bad. Oh, okay, well,
more power.
Yeah.
More authority.
What if we can make the government good and then give it more power? That would solve everything.
Right.
Yeah. Just wait till it's a fully operational battle station. Then we'll see how effective it can be.
Let's go.
All right, everyone. Well, this has been 117 of Last Nighters. Show notes and more at the URL that you all know. And we'll have links to Shaine's show, What's HAPAning. And do check that out. I'll have my appearance as well on there. And we will see you guys all next week as we, I haven't mentioned this yet. We're going to be hopping on that egalitarian train, Robert. We're going to be talking Snowpiercer with Olof the Anarcho-Viking.
The future dystopian train around the world.
Yeah, that should be pretty badass. And that's
Captain America. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, Captain America and the director of Parasite, the Academy Award-winning Best Picture film.
Yep.
I don't know how. Did you say it right?
Bong Joon. Did I say it right, Shaine? I don't remember.
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho. Yeah, that's right.
All right, good. See, Shaine, you're here for a good reason. Tell us how to say the name properly.
How do you pronounce this? Blah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, you just made it up. Anyway, that's great. But anyway, this has been Last Nighters, and we will say good night from last night.